Good afternoon, everybody, in Singapore at least. Good morning if you're in Dubai. Welcome to episode 8 of the Alcon Maddox War Plan webinar series. Now today, I'm Richard Ritchie, as most of you already know. Today I'm excited to be joined by Dennis Mark, former GM and VP of Hewlett-Packard APJ. Say hello, Dennis.
Hey, hi guys. I'm Dennis from Singapore.
Excellent.
And to my Muslim friends out there, ID Mubarak.
Mubarak, yeah, very, very good. I probably should have said that myself, living in the Middle East. So, for those of you who don't already know me, as I said, my name is Richard Ritchie. I run a niche recruitment and executive search firm based here in Dubai, but we also serve the Singapore market. Now, our primary focus is sales and commercial leadership positions for the IT channel industry. Now, typical roles that we source for would be channel manager, partnerships manager, head of channel, country manager, director of sales, commercial director, or VP of sales. I've actually spent the last 25 years building and leading high-performing sales teams, so I know firsthand the importance of installing the right sales leader, what impact that can have on a business, how important that is in times of crisis when it comes to generating new revenue, but also protecting revenue that we've already spent so many years establishing, okay? But that said, today's not about recruitment, nor is it about me. It's actually about you guys, and I'm specifically talking to business managers within the IT channel industry. Now, over the past few weeks, I've been speaking to many of you guys on the call today to get a better sense of really what are the top of mind challenges you guys are facing as a result of COVID-19. Some of you are already part of our mastermind community, and that's really been set up to tackle this crisis head on. Now, these top of mind challenges are really important because they've been driving the content of this webinar series. And this is my way of not only giving back to the IT community, but also a way of bringing us together to ensure that we set ourselves up for massive growth at the end of the crisis, and that we can thrive rather than simply just surviving. So some of the topics we've already discussed over the last 7 weeks are how to keep a remote workforce engaged, the increased threat to cybersecurity born out of working from home, fast-tracking digital transformation, safeguarding reputation for the post-COVID-19 world, managing a partner ecosystem during a crisis, business continuity, and last week we discussed solving business problems with AI. Each week we're accompanied by a different industry expert who helps us piece together strategies to overcome these challenges. In the coming weeks, we're going to be talking about preparing for the bounce back and also change management. And at the end of this series, we'll be compiling all of these strategies in the form of a white paper. So if you'd like to receive a copy of this, then please stay to the end of the session and I'll give you more details on how to get hold of a copy at the end. So that said, today's session, we're going to be doing something slightly different. Our focus now turns to Asia, and I'm delighted to be joined by Dennis Mark, who many of you, I believe, already know. Quite a celebrity in the region, apparently, Dennis. You've been building and driving business in the region for the past almost 30 years. So Dennis and I have actually been going over the findings of the past 7 webinars to determine what content will be most appropriate for the APAC market. And he's come up with 3 themes from this series. But before we get into them, Dennis, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself for the people who don't know you and your experiences in the region?
Sure. Hi, all. I'm Dennis, once again, from Singapore. I live 2 lives. The professional lives, I've spent actually 30 years in the IT industry. Over there, I spend most of my time across Asia Pacific with customers and business partners across different industries and different segments of the line of business, from banking, airlines to Alibaba type of a large e-commerce company, right? And my focus has been on IT solution as a service model, consulting with customers to translate their business problem to much better solution, and it allows me to learn across a rich spectrum of different business behavior, business operating culture, and different mindset across the large variety of Asian markets, from China, Japan, Australia, India, you name it. And my other lives, I spent quite a bit of my time with Red Cross Singapore, most of the time supporting the vulnerables. And in fact, in this COVID-19 situation, quite a bit of my time is spending there to help them distribute some of these essential items to the needies. And at the same time, we are planning for the future. Post COVID-19, what do we do differently? How do we conduct ourselves differently? And how do we train the new batch of respondents differently in this new world, right? So yeah, life has been pretty exciting for me. Yeah, so far.
It's quite interesting. Very interesting. You mentioned the like you said, there's two sides to your life at the moment. Like you said, the business side, and then what you're doing for the Red Cross, and specifically with the COVID-19 pandemic. But you have experience of SARS, obviously, as well in the past, and which obviously brings us into the first theme we wanted really to discuss today. You really touched on it there, was the crisis management element of your experiences, and how do we, how we can, what opportunities do we see on the back of crisis? Because I had an interesting conversation with someone just 2 weeks ago, and they said, never, what was the exact phrase they used? Never waste a good crisis.
Good crisis, yeah, exactly. Yeah. In fact, yeah, I fully agree with you. In fact, I have some example during the SARS situation, how some companies turn crisis into great winning formula for themselves for years to come, right? And in fact, earlier this year, I was in Beijing, I was in China, and I would say that's almost the ground zero of this COVID-19. At that point, I was running a national sales meeting with all my sales leaders from China into Beijing, and I have a direct staff from Wuhan. He came from Wuhan, and I still remember my employee in Beijing were quite worried about that, because they were already at that point, early part of 2020, there were already reports about Wuhan having this situation. But to some extent, at that point, we were still business as usual, but you can see that there are people feeling uneasy about it. So we are lucky. I'm still here today talking to you. But I since then I have firsthand updates and communication with my team, even during the lockdown period, from Wuhan, Beijing, and all Shanghai, different cities, telling me the situation and the economic cadence that we could feel from there. But you're right. This COVID-19 triggered my memory of SARS. During the SARS period, I was the country GM in Singapore. And this experience, Richard, really concur with what I heard from your Series 4 speaker, Eve. Her point about post-crisis mindset, I think it's very important. We must remember to survive the current crisis, but with a post-crisis mindset to really keep us occupied separately too, right? And to safeguard our brand equity. I think she said that too. I think it's really important point for us. So this is my first key lesson to share today, right? Crisis in Chinese comprised of two words, wei and ji. It's about now and the future. It's about the danger that you are facing now and the opportunity moving forward. So hence, I think it is a perfect illustration of how we should treat this crisis. There are two parts. We need to survive now and then, and at the same time, we need to plan for our future, emerge as a winner as much as possible. So hence, there's a good approach.
What interesting
that I learned from SARS.
It's quite interesting the point you picked up on the mindset, because I've conducted a lot of interviews over the last few weeks with industry leaders within the IT community, and I've witnessed this as the weeks go on. There is a definite shift in mindset, but initially there was this. You can put them into two groups. There was the one group of people or companies, if you like, that were very much still in the I guess, defensive, consolidatory mindset where, you know, batten down the hatches, we'll ride out this storm, and we'll make decisions that are kind of short-term based on that mindset. Now the mindset has shifted more away from short-term thinking to long-term. Okay, actually, this is not only is this crisis here to stay for longer than we first anticipated, the reality is the norm that we bounce back to will be fundamentally different to the one we left a few short weeks ago. So we need to change, or to convert our business model, and certainly our thinking to some extent. And it's that shift in mindset that really, I guess, drives the decision making. Because if we're only making short-term survival-driven decisions, that can have a severe impact on our reputation if we do indeed survive the crisis. You know.
Yeah. We need to be mindful. It is important to survive the current state, the down cycle. But it must not be a decision or action that will kill you in the long term, right? You must make sure that your reputation, personal reputation or corporate reputation, will not be harmed with those short-term decisions. Otherwise, there's no point surviving, right? Because you will wake up post-crisis to find that you are the loser then. So hence, I think you're right. I'll summarize that my first key lessons here is to have a balanced approach, right? Watch your liquidity, watch your cash flow, survive the now and here, but you need to plan beyond the crisis, right? You need to plan to emerge as a winner and do things right for the long term, right? And earlier we said we must make sure that your brand equity is the new norm asset for you, that you are the first port of call from your partner, business partner, or customers, that they believe in you, that you will bring them through the crisis and into the future and win together. I think that's the key point. But it's not easy because the world or the current situation is getting very dynamic. So you need to scan the environment, you need to plan your action, you need to execute, you need to adjust your plan, and you scan again because it's changing by the day. So that will be my first point to share. Secondly, I would highlight that we need to take lessons. We need to scan the ground, take lessons from different countries, different companies that went into the crisis earlier than us, right? And as they're now emerging, for the case of China, they are getting out of it. And we should then take their lessons, plan ahead, either fast track our actions or leapfrog forward. I think that's the key point. Yeah. So I don't know whether there's any questions out there. If not, I'll continue this point.
Yeah, we do have a question. So we got a question from Kim. I'll just read the question out for you, Dennis. Sure. So what is your advice to businesses on the best way to take advantage of the COVID-19 crisis without being seen as opportunistic or predatory from a sales and marketing standpoint? It's a very good question. Yeah,
exactly. That's a good question. I think, yes, you need to temper your need to capture short-term profitability, right? But I must say, yes, the short-term survival is important. Every dollar that you manage to bring in is a dollar to help fund your cost to serve and allow your company to survive longer, right? But on the other hand, you need to make sure that your brand equity is intact. Your action must stay true to your brand image, who you are and what you want to be, right? If you were to take those very short-term, very opportunistic, and especially you win, they lose type of approach, then obviously the person who have to, let's say, buy your service or buy your product out of desperation has no choice at that point in time. They will depart with their money unwillingly, and back of their mind they say, yes, it's a one-time transact, right? So it is a transactional brand that you create yourself, and transactional, opportunistic, you win, they lose kind of image. And once you establish that image, it will stick with you. It becomes part of your brand, whether you like it or not. And you have to spend much more later to adjust or correct the brand negative image. It's going to cost you more. So my suggestion is when you go about doing this, just imagine the headline tomorrow on the newspaper. If they were to write to the newspaper or in the forum and stuff, and if they create a public outcry, negative connotation about your brand, you're toast. You basically overdone the short-term mentality, and it's in your brain, it's in your mind, but you express it obviously to this buyer. And what do you think they will do in the future? They will take you off the list. They say, yes, you took advantage of me when I'm down, but when I'm out of this crisis, this is the brand that I'm not going to transact with. Because if you rely on such transactional engagement, you must remember that transactional is always the opposite of relational, right? So hence your relationship will take a hit. You win for that transaction, you lose your reputation for a long time. You lose your brand equity, and that will be the brand that remember not to transact with you in the future. So hence, again, is a short-term versus long-term play. But you must be seen as a win-win partner out there. There's no point of winning and losing, and nobody out there like to lose to you all the time, right? So they'll lose to you once. If they are faithful to you, they lose to you another time. But they should be smart enough after that, and there are not a lot of dumb people out there. They will continuously lose to you.
I think ultimately it's not a long-term play. Is the theme there, right, Dennis? It's not a long-term approach to be so predatory, should we say? I think there's two other things I guess to bear in mind from a sales perspective. One is that someone who buys from you based on cost will leave based on cost. So value is infinitely more important. And when it comes to value, the extension of that is what you're selling relevant to them as well, which is something else we need to consider. So if you've got products or features that have been developed over the last however many months or years that are now coming online, if they're no longer relevant to your clients, trying to sell to them isn't necessarily predatory in the same way that you're articulating here, Kim, but it can be seen as an aggravation point to clients because you're trying to force something down their throats to make your short-term revenue when there's no real value being delivered. And we had an interesting conversation with Microsoft a few weeks ago, and their take on this was very much along the lines of, well, look, this extends beyond COVID-19. If we develop something that by the time of rollout it's no longer relevant, then we have to give it away as a value add. We can't then sell it to someone because there's no value attached to the cost, if that makes sense. So as salespeople on the ground, we need to be aware of these conversations and how we come across. But then also, from a sales leadership point of view, we need to be mindful of the fact that what we're delivering are we delivering value? And the value that we deliver today is the value that will protect our relationship long term. And sometimes that means, unfortunately, taking a short-term hit from a revenue perspective, but the long-term play is protecting the relationship, because without the relationship, you can't survive long-term. Thanks very much for that question.
I fully agree with you, and I cluster them all as part of the brand equity. Yeah, the relationship, the damage or positive that you build up. It's a trust bank, and the trust is on your brand moving forward. And this brand I'm referring to both as a corporate brand and also individual brand, right? For you, Richard, for me, Dennis, what do we stand for in the marketplace ourselves as a professional? So I think I fully agree with what you have stated there. So let me move on to my second piece of conversation that I really like to share here. So learning from the other countries and the company that's around us emerging out. I love history, so let me take us back to SARS again. 2003, there was another coronavirus, and the fatality then was 800 plus people, maybe a bit more, with a reporting error and all, across 17 countries, right? And the total cases reported then was about 8,000 plus across 26 countries. So if you had some percentage of error and all that stuff, but it's ballpark about that. 8 to 10,000 cases, and it wiped out 40 billion across the economies. And at that point, China growth was reduced from 11 to 9%. We must remember then the China economy always growing double digit and all, and dropping to 9 was, well, sub double digit was very bad in China, right? It was very bad in China. No travel and this and that at that point. And at that point too, businesses were very badly hit in China. First, Alibaba. Alibaba then was a B2B company. It relied on supplies from China to market like US and all. And the entire office were locked down. 200 over people locked down in Hangzhou. They can't do anything, cannot venture out, cannot have their business meeting and all. So they branch out and they have a core team of 7 or so start to develop Taobao as an e-commerce platform for domestic and overseas usage. That was how this Taobao e-com started to develop from Alibaba, out of desperation too, because they were all locked down. The other example I would share is JD.com. JD.com at that point was all brick and mortar. They were selling all the electronics product, but they were forced to close every one except one store, and they have to switch their business all to online because nobody is moving around. So they have to switch to online transaction. And as you said, they didn't let a good crisis gone wasted, right? They emerged as a winner. I've been working with these two companies closely over the last few years. Now they're the top e-commerce engine in China, and I would argue they are also the top across the world, right? And back to today, COVID-19, I just checked the report today, 5.5 million cases, unfortunately. Friday, before the weekend, I was checking the number, it was 5 million. So just this week, it added another 10% to it, 5.5 million now. And according to the WHO, and China is now at about 83,000 cases, right? And the fatality rate there is about 5.5%, and it will vary across different countries. But this is the worst news. For the very first time, China report a GDP at negative growth. I checked the history. Since 1990s, maybe some of the listeners still in their diapers, China has always had positive GDP growth, and this is the very first time it dropped negative 6.8% to be exact in Q1 2020. And hence, just to compare the magnitude, during SARS, it was reduced from 11 to 9. You can argue about some accuracy in the reporting then, but now it's negative 6.8, the very first time of negative GDP growth in China for a very long time, since the 90s, right? So we can see the magnitude of COVID-19 versus SARS is much larger in scale and much deeper in terms of its impact to the economy and all, right? I dare not even try to estimate the economic impact, but there's some good news. Sorry, Richard.
That kind of, I was just going to say, so that kind of impact, the scale of that impact has to force people. There has to be forced change upon companies. In order to survive, you can't go through a situation that's that huge and expect to sustain your existing business model, right? There's
exactly. I think that's my point to make the comparison, right? Is business not as usual anymore? If anybody is still trying to believe that it might bounce back a V shape and you should be back to where you were, do the same thing and be happy again, I would say no way. And that's actually leading to my next point about the new norm that we must recognize and embrace. But there's good news out of all this, right? So I just now painted a very bad part of the COVID-19, but things are improving. Things are improving, right? Things are looking up. As of April and early May, when I start to look into Baidu, which is another digital platform in China with news, data, and all, they start to show data on SMB marketplace. SMB activities are on the rise. So business transactions happening. The other indicator is that car sales is turning upward. So I think that's another good indication. They buy cars because more traffic, more travel requirement and all stuff. So hence, that's a good indication that the business volume is on the right turning point. And there's another more important part that I do want to share with everybody today. The Chinese government has officially announced in April 2020 that they're going to invest big time into 7 sectors of next generation infrastructure. So this new area of next generation infrastructure development in Chinese is called 新基建, right? New infrastructure development, loosely translate that way. So 7 sectors are, firstly, 5G. They're going to build across the country 5G base station. Secondly, ultra high voltage power grid. Thirdly, inter and intra-city high-speed rail. Those who have traveled to China would know that how quick some of the high-speed rail is, and they're going to expand even wider and deeper. Fourth, EV charging infrastructure. I drive an EV myself here in Singapore, but the charging station is just not enough. So imagine this limitation is overcome in China with all this EV charging station across, and I think they will contribute a lot into the green environment topic too. The fifth is on big data. China is going to invest big on big data, and number 6 will be on AI, and number 7, lastly, is on the industrial connectivity network. So you can imagine that they are trying to connect the country together, both for human traffic, data traffic, and more importantly, leveraging the new direction on EV, 5G, and or AI to make it a smart nation, right? Smart, connected, powerful nation. So hence, and in particular, this week, China is having the top level national meeting is in Chinese called 两会, 2 sessions, loosely translated. It is the National People's Congress and also the Political Consultative Conference coming together, right? And in this meeting, started May 22nd, they announced 50% cut in government expenses. I'm sure it's not across all different areas and all in selected areas. They'll cut as aggressively as 50%. And I believe more news about the 7 area of next generation infrastructure will be released, and they're going to pump the money that way. So,
yeah,
so
just
what's the implication for us?
So they're repositioning their funds. I was just saying that, so they're repositioning their funds based on their new strategy, as you've just articulated with those 7 points, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So as
you can see that, to your point earlier, life is no longer usual, right? You can see that China as a nation is shifting, pivoting their investment in certain areas. They have to cut on some old economy infrastructure to invest in the new one. And these are their choice points. So yeah, there is huge implication to us. So the implication number 1 is we need to follow the money, right? This is where the investment will drive towards in China. They will build scale and opportunity within China, and based on my experience in China, it will soon cascade into outside China markets across Asia and all, right? Secondly, other governments might follow. Right, they like it or not, they'll have to figure out how they will tap on this bandwagon, because China as an engine, once they start building in that direction, it's going to create a lot of opportunity, cost benefits and all, and some countries might adapt part of it, might not be all, but all might be all, but definitely they want to be in the game. And for us as businesses, you need to ask yourself, your 2030 plan, does it align with part of this 7 or all of this 7 or none of the 7? So if you are the last case, none of the 7, then you might want to rethink, right?
Right.
And replan.
Time to revisit. It's actually a very interesting point. Like you say, it's a very good point about, like you say, following the money's been invested. If that's the, I guess, the superpower in the region, then it makes sense, especially if your business, because I know a lot of businesses that are based in Singapore don't necessarily serve the domestic market, right? A lot of companies based in Singapore serve the region, and China makes up a pretty large portion of that, right? So if you're not gearing yourself up to serve the Chinese market, then you're not taking advantage of the position we're in right now. And I guess this is actually, before we move on to the next question, I think there's a note from Thomas. I'll just read this out. From China H. So this is Thomas Wang from China HP. A ton of thanks for the impressive sharing. Dennis, you gave us many real examples during tough era. Any suggestions from your side? My question is, could you forecast or assume any changes of consumer behaviors happened, and how to better deal with these changes in business world?
Wow. I after so many years in business, I must say forecast is going to be a difficult topic, especially in a dynamic situation as such. But I quite agree with Thomas. In fact, Thomas and I we share quite a fair bit of information about how the new generation Chinese youth, the post 90, there's a term, post 80, post 90, right? Referring to the generation born in the 90s or the 80s and all. And their life, in my mind, will be very different, because with all this e-commerce, data-driven connectivity in China, 5G and all, you can imagine the lifestyle will be very different. I would imagine that 5G is going to drive a lot of different entertainment, a lot of different shopping experience. It will be no longer just a physical store, but it's a omni-channel. When you're in the physical store, the 5G connectivity will give you all the other information to encompass your physical presence in the store with many other areas, right? So I think the life of the consumer, I would imagine, will be largely driven by youth, and the youth lifestyle will start to emerge. I think TikTok is one key example how some trends in China, short video translated across to the world, and it works. It triggers all the youth across the world to behave the same way. So yeah, I believe behind Thomas' question, it's going to be a lot of opportunity for different businesses. Remembering if the data, the 5G connectivity, business connectivity, and the transport connectivity is going to have a leap and bound kind of approach, it's going to change the life of many people in China. And I believe that it's going to cascade, and the trend of living a life to the fullest, multi-sensational, multi-dimensional, it's going to come to real, right? 5G, unlimited data, unlimited power, unlimited connectivity. If you take that as the imagination, the vision, it's going to change the life, especially the youth who are native as far as digital lifestyle is concerned. They will push to the limit. So I really look forward to that. And Thomas probably will keep me updated with all this new happening trend in China youth segment. Right.
It's very interesting. If you talk about behavior specifically, I guess on the back of humans, unfortunately, are very quick to forget things, right? Maybe that's part of our survival mechanism, but you would hope that a lot of things out of this crisis would be remembered long term, and that would I think have an impact on behavior from I guess first from a social perspective, and then that's the way we interact socially will then have an impact on purchasing habits, where we buy, what we buy, even the value we attribute to certain things. You know, there are certain things that just by virtue of being in lockdown, let's say, certain things that we realize actually we don't need, or they're not as, there's no point in having them so much because people don't see me driving a nice car, or people don't see me on a holiday. Do you know what I mean? There are certain things I think that we will start to question the value of, that we've perhaps invested a lot of money in the past from a consumer perspective, that may alter. And again, this I guess depends on how long this crisis goes on for and how long the youth within our current society are impacted. You know, if it's just a few months, arguably yes, we may forget. But if it extends on for a longer period, then that will have a much deeper rooted impact on social behavior, I think.
Yeah, I think there's some new ways of entertainment, new ways of getting around, new ways of dining, and all. I think will change. Yeah, I think certainly we need to believe that we need to learn from this and develop new social norm even to keep ourselves safe. And I think what it will help to some extent, it will help us raise the hygiene standard across all of us, right? To be mindful of such. But as you said, we are forgetful. So things that we learned in SARS, after a while, it will be forgotten. You know, people will be crowding around and all. But hopefully, yeah, some of the new social norm and some of this technology, hopefully, that we discussed earlier, would also help us to be more mindful about this. And let's hope there's not another case of coronavirus coming back again. Okay, but that question was a good one, leading to my next point about getting ready ourselves to connect to the new norms. So I do want to highlight a few norms so that we can be mindful of them and really accelerate some of this trend, because some of these norms are not entirely new. It was there, but in a smaller scale, right? So this COVID-19 certainly pushed the limits and basically accelerated some of this norm that's required for us to thrive in the new world and in the expanded scope. So first new norm, digitalization. So in my experience, we work with external customer solution. So we developed this print as a service in China. We basically leverage data, usage data, efficiency data, and all across the market and for individual customers so that they can leverage and understand their usage model and be more efficient, more productive, and in some cases save even more cost in running what they used to do. So I think that is a win-win solution. But you also need to translate some of this data back internally to improve your operation, to really remove some of this gaps in your internal operation, to make it as frictionless, to make it as productive for yourself, for your customers. And I think in the episode 3, Richard, Mr. Abby highlighted and saw that. So I would urge the viewers to join that session, episode 3, to look into some of the other topics that were discussed in the digitalization, right? And new norm 2, we need to expect customers' business model to evolve and change quite drastically, right? I see customers looking at much shorter, much tighter value delivery chain, right, with cloud-based connectivities and data. I give you one example. In China, Hema is one of the Alibaba's subsidiary. They integrated retail format, and these are in prime location retail, with their warehousing requirement and with their digital end-to-end transaction. So all this into one, and in the retail front, and such really give a lot of convenience to the user. I myself, with some of my China colleagues, will be there for lunch and all. It's very easy. They even have a table set up for you that you can buy raw material, send to their kitchen, and send to your table. Less than 15, 20 minutes, and you have your lunch. But more importantly, they are able to leverage the data to optimize their order and inventory turn, so that they can promise you a 1 day or daily freshness of their produce, which means product that is delivered to the store will be delivered to your home within the day. So no products in that range has a shelf life more than 24 hours in their stores. So that is great promise, because in this situation now of food insecurity, right, where they are not sure the origin of the product and stuff, this allow customers to know where their produce come from, how quickly and how fresh they can get it. And in the Chinese context, fresh food is always paid with a premium. So very importantly, because of their efficiency, they can promise the customers 30 minutes order to delivery if you stay within 3-kilometer radius of this outlet, this retail outlet, right? Be it you
attractive value proposition, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. And be it you visit the store and pick your produce there, or you just order online. 30 minutes, it will be delivered to your home. Sometimes it gets there faster than you, right? but very importantly and very interestingly is the property prices within this 3-kilometer radius, boom, yeah, it jumped because of this effect.
That's fascinating. Yeah. That's like property prices next to the tube in London.
Yeah. It's just like a good school in your neighborhood. Your neighborhood property prices go up.
Excellent.
But in this case, it's a retail. It's a retail outlet. So retail will not be totally dead. It will transform, but with a much tighter end-to-end value delivery system, right? And I just hope that Hema will come to my district and my property prices will go up. So new norm 3, the alternate gravitation towards China. I think, yes, I must also highlight it can be a double-edged sword, right? But this digital Silk Road has been promoted, and I do want to highlight that China, when I first engaged China business in the 90s, China was a hungry importer of technology, Western technology in particular then. But today, I would say in many solutions that I come across in China, they are a net technology exporter. Okay, I give you a few examples. Firstly, let's say document security solution, right? In the traditional and very Western treatment of that, just like our currency note, there will be a UV printed watermark. A important document, let's say your important certification, will run through 2 parts of printing. One pass is on traditional ink, and the other part will be a UV ink that print the watermark. And this watermark can be authenticated with under the UV light, right? This is a traditional way. But in China now, what they're doing is they embed, even in a monochrome printout, they basically will embed the security code within the character. So within a Chinese character, some security code are embedded inside. And I'm quite sure it can be translated to English alphabets, and some of the lines of codes are embedded inside. And the embedded codes can be read with an app. And you can, of course, give the app to the user with password and all. So there are multi-layer of security, but which means it's a much easier, because is a software-based, app-based product, and then hence any printer can do it with maybe certain encoding and all. So it becomes a much more abundance approach in terms of the embedded printing. And the other example I want to share then, it will be the Alipay. Alipay, the Singles Day. These are e-commerce platform in China, be it technology, be it a sales platform, or be it a promotional program, expanded from China due to its popularity across to the world, with Chinese going overseas as tourists, or adapted by Asian markets. And now I believe a lot of Singaporeans on the line or Asians on the line enjoy the Singles Day. November 11, that's the biggest, just like the Black Friday in US, the biggest sales in town across all the e-platform. And all e-platform will compete for your wallet on that day. So yeah, even if you are not single, you enjoy the day on shopping, right? So then that really leads to the point that you mentioned earlier. Singapore is a well-connected and well-positioned market for this Chinese technology connecting to the rest of the world or to the West. So Singapore is best position due to our history, our culture of being the trading hub between the East and the West. And we are well positioned in Asia to connect both parts, or connect to, say, Middle East and the rest of the activities across Asia, right? But definitely the volume, China and the Western world and Middle East to some extent will become a main volume of traffic that Singapore companies and Singaporeans can really look forward to get yourself as part of the gateway, as part of the bandwagon, right? So the new norm 4 that I do want to highlight is that we need brave leadership to evolve your organization towards this direction, right? Areas that you pick, areas that you are able to evolve your organization and to motivate both internal and external ecosystem partners to come along your journey. And as discussed in episode 1, Mr. Wadi did say that now that the people are remote and less connected to the mothership of the company, it makes this task even more needed, but more challenging, right? So as leader, we must visualize and communicate future despite all this uncertainty and ambiguity, right? We need to shine a light towards the direction. You might not be 100% right, but hopefully you are not totally on the opposite direction. And you need to have a balanced leadership style. So by now you probably know my middle name is Balance, right? So this balanced leadership style need to establish the tough decision, right? Because your people understand that we are in a very deep down cycle. They are looking forward to make tough decisions, right? And they expect you because it's a very difficult position out there. Hence, you must make it and communicate your decision in a positive but authentic manner, right? To highlight that there's hope, but be very clear to them. It has to take some sacrifices somewhere to fund for a certain future. You need to be clear as possible, right? You need to be as caring as you can, and also empathize with the ecosystem, because you need to know you are not moving alone. You move along with an ecosystem. So how to motivate and energize the whole ecosystem to come along with you, I think is a critical one, right?
I think the point you mentioned there about clarity is of utmost importance, both internally as well. So to translate the messages to our employees about the reality of what's happening, what is the new strategic direction of our organization, because as employees look to establish how secure is my job right now, they need a degree of clarity to be articulated to them from the leadership team within their organization, but then also for even the sales division or the division that interacts with clients. These are the people within organizations that now also need to become leaders and deliver clarity to their to the ecosystem that they serve. Because if you're managing partnerships, partners or resellers or what have you, they need to understand, okay, given the new norm, there may be 10 things that you expect from them in ordinary times, let's say, but the reality is they can only deliver on 6. So you need to make clear to them that, okay, right, we only actually expect really delivery of these 6 key things. And then that paves the way for a much more transparent, realistic relationship. But if we're not making those things clear, we run the risk of, let's say, damaging relationships, but then also misforecasting as well, because we all need to, remember the realism as well.
I think you're absolutely right, because it takes trade-off. So the point about a brave leadership is required, because you need to make the tough decision of trade-off. I spoke to some of my friends who is going through this cycle within the company or their own business. Yes, you need to expect what 4 out of the 10 that you could not do anymore. You might run out of resource to continue. Just be clear and be very clear that those will be dropped off, and focus on the 6 and do them well, and do it for your future brand equity, right? So Richard, maybe I should summarize my thoughts so far. Then we open up for question, right? So to summarize, we must go for a balanced approach, right? Remember my middle name. Survive the down cycle and be yourself. The post-COVID-19 situation, plan and adjust yourself and to be future ready. I think that is key. And it has to start from us. We need to accept the usual is unusual going forward, right? The post-COVID-19, the norm is the new norm, right? So we need to accept the situation and then move on with it. And as leaders, we need to explore the new norm's boundary, because you need to find yourself before you can lead your people there and accelerate our evolution to emerge on the other side of the tunnel, to be stronger, better, and fitter along the way, and to be the most suited partner or ecosystem that will take advantage of the new norm. The new norm is going to be there. You'll either be there or you'll be left behind, right? And we hence need to aggressively leverage our power of data with digitization to make better decisions and make ourselves most ready for business transformation, either for ourselves or for our customers, and optimize it for both parties. And last but not least, open your eyes for China, right? Because China's growth path, the digital Silk Road, and their domestic new next generation infrastructure investment, it is going to have effect on you, whether you like it or not. So get the direction right, get the opportunity right, and get the timing right. And then we can enable ourselves post COVID-19 a big leap forward. So hopefully, and may you be the next Alibaba, Jack Ma, or be the next JD.com, or at least be part of the winning bandwagon. That's my message to all the viewers out there. And stay safe, stay healthy, and take care of yourself. Thank you. That's my message. And we hope we can go Q&A.
We've got a few more minutes, so let's just take a few more questions. I know we have one here from Thomas. So Thomas, in relation to the November 11th, which is the International E-Shopping Festival, in recent days, specifically, or especially rather during the disease outbreak in Western countries, some professionals were discouraged the globalization manufacturing globally. I think that was just a statement. And then the question here is, could you kindly share your thoughts on globalization post-COVID-19? Thank you, Thomas.
Okay. Yeah. I guess Thomas, behind Thomas' question, it was this U.S.-China tension, right? This trade war that happened maybe started about a year before COVID-19 situation, and at that point there was a lot of push from U.S. To really bring manufacturing closer to home, and this COVID-19 probably established the fact that some of this supply chain need to evolve instead of base, because we like it or not, China has reached the scale and the capacity to produce almost any product at the lowest possible cost structure, and with the scale, it's cheaper to produce in China and ship it across the world than to produce back in certain market with your own labor, your own technology, and all. So I guess the new world is going to be a hybrid. The China capacity, capability, and your technology will continue to make China a major manufacturing engine. But I think China is evolving from pure manufacturing to more. China is going to adjust themselves by making better 5G product, better EV charging product, and all. So all this investment is going to create scale that China will productize and no longer just rely on being a factory for the world, right? But there will be still some factory component activities that best done with the scale of China in China, and maybe some part of the postponement, in our supply chain called postponement, where their core products produced one place, bring to another market, you will customize it to meet the local market requirement and then deliver to the marketplaces. I believe more of that will happen. So it's going to be not one size fit all solution like the past, where almost everything, even if you remember during the presidential election in US, the cap that make America great again is behind made in China. So things will evolve. Some more manufacturing, I believe, will be done locally in different markets, right? And China will evolve itself from a pure manufacturing hub, factory for the world, to smarter manufacturing, smarter brand, and also China will move up the value chain, right? And I can imagine by 2030, there will be lots of China branded product used across the world, much like the Samsung today, much like the Japanese product once upon a time, the Sony and all, right? There will be a lot of Chinese Sony, Chinese Samsung product, LG, that's across the world, because they no longer can take advantage of their manufacturing, and they by then no longer just want to be a OEM manufacturer factory for the world, right? So Thomas, you'll still get a lot of cool stuff, but the advantage is other country will get all the cool stuff coming from your country, and Chinese brand is going to populate across most of the world. That's my personal forecast.
I think also the Western perception of what China is capable of delivering will evolve as well. So rather than China being seen as a, let's say, a cheap option to manufacturing, it'll become, you know, people will almost be more proud to say they bought something of Chinese origin, whereas in the past it was, like you say, OEMs. You put a different brand on it. You almost hide the fact that it's come from China. But I think in the future you'll wear that stamp maybe with a bit more pride, because that implies a degree of quality and technological advancement that perhaps we haven't experienced or been aware of in the past. Dennis, we'll take one more question and then we'll have to wrap up. We have another question from Kim. So I'll just read this out. Can you both share some more examples or observations of the tech sales leaders who have performed particularly well taking advantage of the COVID-19 crisis, and why they're doing so well? Also be interested in their views on which APJ countries seem to be handling the crisis best from a business point of view, independent or government actions. So do you have any examples that you can share, Dennis, of companies that have performed particularly well during the crisis?
Yeah, so I got the second part of the question, but the first part, can you just repeat the first part? I can't see the question.
Yeah, sure. So the question is, can you both share some more examples or observations of tech sales leaders who have performed particularly well taking advantage of COVID-19 crisis, and why they're doing so well? So from a company perspective, I can certainly say, I can give you some examples of companies within this region, but they're typically involved in either e-commerce. So I know, for example, Amazon, Souk are recruiting like nobody's business in this region, but then also you have companies, food delivery companies that are inundated with requests. But then also we have, there's another company here within the UAE called InstaShop. InstaShop is not, is a grocery delivery platform essentially, but they've now, you can see that they've expanded their platform to cater to a plethora of other companies that now want to take advantage of, you know, home delivery services. So more and more grocery stores are now delivering. Literally, you could literally live inside your apartment for an entire year in Dubai. You can literally get everything delivered, from groceries to cosmetics, pharmacies, everything. There literally is no excuse to leave your house. It's quite tragic, really.
Along what you are saying, I can look at Herma that I have highlighted earlier. I think it is a clear winner in this situation of lockdowns and all. They not only have the benefit of being a capability of delivering door to door, but they also have the data to tell them what is needed, what is the ordering trend out there, what's the demand, and they can match the demand on a day-to-day dynamic So I think this company will be a big winner. Another big winner I can tell you is Ant Financial. It's another Alibaba branch company. They're focusing on products like Alipay and all. They have an SMB credit worthiness system, not based on the banking statement, not based on your company 3-year P&L. Because I think that's a common struggle for many SMBs, right? If you go to the bank to loan money, if you are SMB, the bank will ask you for last 3-year balance sheet. They want to see your P&L healthy. Then if you are rich enough, healthy enough, they will lend you money. If you need money, but you're not rich enough, they won't lend you the money. So that's an issue. And many countries, SMB is caught in this vicious cycle that they need money. They go to the bank, but the bank can't loan them because of the process of 3-year P&L statement. So the Ant Financial has this SMB credit system, not so much based on your profit and loss statement, your income and cash flow, but based on your credit, social credit, your buying behavior, your payment behavior through the network. Right? So they know that you're worthy in the sense when you buy and you pay, are you always on time? Right? Are you always paying up your purchases or your leasing and all that stuff? Once you establish a credit of such transaction, they will be able to publish your ranking or your credit worthiness to potential seller out there. So the seller don't have to wait for your banking statement. They'll basically look at your credit worthiness in Ant Financial. And if Ant Financial establish you as a strong payee, a healthy buyer out there, and that is good enough. And that I believe will be the type of company that will survive in this marketplace, because they practically use the data, the digitization of information to enable the new business growth. The previous problem of SMB unable to access to credit, unable to buy many goods and produce because of the limitation, financial limitation, is now unblocked by such technology. So I said these two examples will be great examples that I see companies that is really doing well in this crisis and will continue to lift themselves. And the good news, I believe, both these companies will come to a lot of the Asian marketplaces, and they may go to Middle East. But I'm quite sure there's a lot of companies that will emulate such value proposition and make it local themselves too. So watch out for such companies, Kim.
Definitely. Thanks very much, Dennis. And thanks very much, Kim, for the question. Guys, unfortunately, there's no more time for questions. We're running a little bit over. I want to thank you, Dennis, for being such an insightful session today. I've really enjoyed it. We may even have you back in a few more weeks, because I know you've got quite a lot to say, and certainly a lot of people are willing to listen to the value you can deliver. So look, guys, just to recap, if you'd like a copy of the white paper that I mentioned at the beginning of the call, please just type white paper in the chat box, and I'll make sure you get a copy of that once it's prepared in the next few weeks. Also, if you'd like to become a member of our mastermind community, then please just write mastermind in the chat box, and I'll reach out to you personally in the next 48 hours so we can have a discussion in that regard. Next week, we'll be joined by Silicon Valley's very own Kevin Iwamoto. He's Chief Strategy Officer at Bisley, and they will be talking in more detail about, actually from a strategic perspective, what are the things we should be considering to convert our business model in preparation for the bounce back. So registration is now open. You can register on our website, which is alchematics.com/COVID-19, or you can go to our LinkedIn page, which is where I think most of you guys have come through as well. So that's it. Dennis, thank you so much again. We really enjoyed your company, and yeah, we'll hopefully see you on our next webinar series. Take care, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you all. Thank you.